Script here with another video, guys. And Daisy Ridley, of course, doing the rounds lately on the news and in social media, and a lot of people talking about her and her attitude and a lot of positive things coming out of this. And I just saw this interesting quote from her, and I thought I'd address this a little bit. And I just wanted you guys to imagine something for a second. So you're a young actor. You're not Harrison Ford. You're not somebody established. You're a young actor. You haven't really done a whole lot. You've done a few things. You're trying to hone your craft, and you get picked to play a major role in a Star Wars movie. And then while you're shooting that movie, and this has been confirmed by J.J. Abrams, by Adam Driver, by Daisy Ridley herself, while you're filming this movie and the subsequent 2 sequels, you are left in the dark about where this character is ultimately headed. Because the people above you producing the movie don't have a plan, and they don't know where things are going to go. And in the case of Daisy, she didn't even know she was going to be a Palpatine until halfway through shooting The Rise of Skywalker, because they were still trying to figure out what they were going to do literally while they were shooting. So imagine you're that person. Imagine how nerve-wracking that would be to really have no idea what's gonna happen here, and like how am I gonna look on screen, and how is my character gonna look on screen when I'm acting from a position of not really knowing where this is supposed to go. So having said that, at long last, Daisy Ridley is giving herself grace. It's been a decade since she first landed the role of Rey in The Force Awakens, leaping from near total obscurity to lead one of the biggest franchises in film history, and Ridley is in some ways still processing her impossible breakthrough. Honestly, the first time I watched my stuff on screen, I literally thought I ruined Star Wars. Ridley 31 tells Inverse. And going back to what I was saying earlier, I think that's something you're going to feel. You're going to be nervous anyway, because, you know, Star Wars fans are pretty intense and all that. But when you are in a series of films and you don't really know the story, and you don't know what's going to happen with your character, and you don't understand, and the people above you don't, I think you're going to have even more anxiety when you see yourself on the screen. But I'd like to sit here and wonder about that. Like, why did she think she ruined Star Wars? Is it because she watched the film and realized that Rey was too powerful? Is it because she watched the film and realized that it went against certain very established concrete rules in the Star Wars universe, her character, and how things went with her? Because, again, they had no plan. So the dyad came later. She literally just knew how to do a mind trick. The whole idea that she downloaded Ben's mind, that all came later. They didn't think of any of that stuff until they were doing The Rise of Skywalker. And in fact, The Rise of Skywalker, as we well know, is a discombobulated mess of just trying to fix all of the stupid problems and gigantic questions that were left from the previous 2 films. So we can't say that she knew that, because they didn't know that. Nobody knew that. They didn't have a plan. J.J. Abrams is very specific about this. And keep in mind, let's say they did have a plan. Episode 9 was Trevorrow's. It was Trevorrow's, and J.J.'s story is completely different. So the dyad was after the fact added in. So maybe she was watching that and saying, oh no, you know, Star Wars fans are going to wonder why I'm doing Jedi mind tricks when I found out the Force existed yesterday. Star Wars fans are going to be kind of mad that I'm like beating Kylo in a lightsaber duel, and I'm like so capable with the Force, and I've never even trained. I haven't met Luke yet. Maybe that's why she thought she ruined Star Wars, because maybe, just maybe, she actually genuinely cares. I think she does. And I think when you watch a lot of the interviews, and I have my other video, you know, The Tragedy of the Sequels, and you see the facial expressions and the way people talked about it, I think there's just a lot of disappointment with all of the cast. It's very easy to see, and it's very confirmed. But Daisy, I do think, actually genuinely cares. And I have a feeling she watched that movie and thought about things and thought about why this was going to make people mad. Now, it might have just been something simple as I'm seeing myself on screen and it's weird and it makes me nervous and people are going to see me. But I don't think that's what it was. I don't think she did a bad job. And she doesn't say that that's the case. She doesn't say she looks stupid or anything like that. She just says, I literally thought I ruined Star Wars. Is she talking about the character of Rey, right? I don't think she's talking about herself and her own acting chops in the film, because they're fine. There's nothing wrong with it. It's not blowing anybody's mind, but it's certainly not terrible or bad. And let's face it, Mark Hamill was pretty laughable at the beginning of A New Hope in particular, the way he delivered some of his lines. And of course, some of the lines are very clunky.
Take these 2 over to the garage, will you? I want them cleaned up before dinner.
But I was going into Toshi Station to pick up some power converters.
She laughs now as she recounts the then traumatic experience of watching The Force Awakens for the first time shortly before it hit theaters. The actor, then 23, had never before seen herself in a leading role. She'd previously booked only small TV roles and was working in a bar when cast, and was overwhelmed crying on the flight home to London. I definitely have more grace now for it, It's funny now, too, because that was 10 years ago, so if anything comes on TV, I'm like, oh, I'm a baby, oh my god, that's me as a baby. I wouldn't say it's easier, but I've had to become more comfortable. So part of it certainly would be just an anxiety about seeing yourself. Even now, 10 years after being cast in Star Wars, she's still sorting through that experience, not only of portraying Rey, the sequel trilogy's heroine, across 3 blockbuster films, but also of beginning life as a celebrity and managing the franchise's notoriously fervent fan base. Understand the scale, J.J. Abrams told her when he offered her the part of Rey. This is not a role in a movie. This is a religion for people. It changes things on a level that is inconceivable. At the time, Ridley leapt at the opportunity, but she couldn't have known what was coming. And I also want to add, this is her audition. Clearly, if you watch her audition here, you can see that she was able to handle the emotional side of things and was definitely able to handle the scene with Ben, which I guess they kind of put that one at the forefront of if she can handle this level of fear and emotion, she'll be able to do the rest of the film. This is not a role in a movie, it's a religion for people. Yeah, I mean, it's pretty intense, and I can see why you would be super nervous. When all the craziness was going on, she now recalls, I was like, I'm good, I'm coping fine, everything's fine, and I was fine for the most part, but I think what I was really grappling with was that it was my normal, but it was not normal to other people. Paradoxically, though, she spent every day surrounded while making Star Wars, really also found the experience isolating. For friends and family, for any people that see something in a slightly different way than you do, there's this projection of you and you in that world and how it feels to do this and that. And you're like, well, actually, I'm just a human being separate from that. It's quite this wrestle of the reality of fantasy that's often projected on you. And I think Mark Hamill said some similar things because his character of Luke Skywalker is almost it's bigger than him to most people. They don't, you know what I mean? It kind of dehumanizes you in some ways. Ridley, for example, has been open in the past about living with both endometriosis and polycystic ovary syndrome. I did not know that. 2 extremely common disorders that afflict women, the skin problems she's experienced as a result, and talks about the toll that stress, exhaustion took on her in The Force Awakens hit theaters. By the time Last Jedi opened, Ridley's anxiety was so severe she developed holes in her stomach wall. Again, why does that happen? Is that her inner self? Is that her inner demons? Is that her just trying to figure things out? Or is it because of the way things were received? And again, things that happened in those films that would make people mad. I think Daisy Ridley's smart enough to know that the way that Rian Johnson handled, for example, the Luke character was going to make people mad. Everybody knew that. Mark Hamill, of course, knew that. And so did Rian Johnson. But Rian Johnson did it anyway because his whole thing is about making half the people happy and half the people mad. And he likes to piss people off. He's that kid that just won't stop poking you in the playground until you finally get so mad that you punch him in the face. That's Rian Johnson. And he thinks it's funny. Either way, this is kind of sad that that's what took place for her, but why is that? And why was she so nervous? And why did she have so much anxiety, right? Eventually, she had to slow down, spending 6 months at home in London before The Rise of Skywalker started filming. The sabbatical allowed her to fall back on familiar routines and regain her footing. Practicing self-care became more important for Ridley after her time in the galaxy far, far away came to a close. After the last Star Wars came out and everything was quiet, I was like, what the F? Ridley recalls I was grieving, letting go of relationships she'd formed on set. None of the time she'd invested in the franchise was emotionally intense. The world would have ended as suddenly as it had begun, forcing her to a standstill. And then, a few moments later, the world went into lockdown. Having to sit and just be like in lockdown was incredibly helpful for her. As an actor, her job was to be surrounded by people all day. Returning home to a massive quiet, she found herself at a loss as to how to proceed. Ridley, our next action hero, dramatic powerhouse, or high-wire performer, uniquely suited to psychological thrillers. Her next role suggests the answer could be all of the above. Okay, so one thing I will say is, despite all of this stuff and the anxieties and the stomach walls and all the other things that went on with her, clearly she did not see those things as so egregious that she wouldn't return to Star Wars again. So we can't sit there and say that it's all because of Star Wars and Star Wars alone. Some of it absolutely is some of her own anxieties, and I'm sure she's taking responsibility for that. And the fact that she'd come back knowing that people didn't like the Rey character tells you that she can get over it. So that's cool. Seems like a strong person, but this quote was the one that kind of got me. I literally thought I ruined Star Wars. So you guys let me know in the comment section what you think. Do you think that she ruined Star Wars, or was it somebody above her? And do you think she thought that because of her own acting ability in her mind, or do you think she thought that because she could see what was going on with Star Wars and the decisions that they were making, and she had anxiety over that, as well as the fact that she really didn't know where this character was going? Let me know in the comment section what you think. As usual, thanks for watching. If you do like this content, please like and subscribe, and have yourselves a really good day.